Laura and Marco are headed for land. Good Saturday afternoon. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. We have quite a lot to cover, and I will note we're probably going to start to do separate videos as these systems both take on urgency of their own. Right now, I could still wing both of them within a tight enough video, but eventually we're going to have to spread that out, which I haven't had to do since Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Jose were out there back in 2017. Here's the latest on Marco in the Gulf of Mexico, entering the Gulf of Mexico as of 4 p.m. Central, that's 5 p.m. Eastern. Winds are 65 miles per hour, is just below hurricane strength, moving north-northwest at 13, and it's at 21.9 north, 85.7 west, and Marco is forecast to become a potent Category 1 hurricane prior to making landfall sometime Monday in extreme southeastern Louisiana. Because of this, we now have a hurricane watch from Intracoastal City to the Mississippi-Alabama border, including Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and the Metropolitan New Orleans area. We also have a tropical storm warning for the western areas here of Cuba, and a tropical storm watch from Mississippi, Alabama to Alabama-Florida border. So we are on the alert here on the Gulf Coast as Marco will make a fast approach, probably faster than we thought and much further to the east than we thought. It appears that this troughiness has had quite an impact tugging on Marco, bringing him much further to the north than we thought it would be. Nevertheless, it could still be areas here, Cameron, Sabine Pass. It could be over here towards Mobile. But right now, it appears that Marco's going to take aim at southeastern Louisiana as a hurricane. Category 1, it looks like. I should note we also have a storm surge watch from Sabine Pass to the Alabama-Florida border, including Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, Lake Borgne, and Mobile Bay. So there is going to be the threat of water rises. Here's the latest satellite. There he is, Marco. Not terribly well organized. He's been tightening here. The recon's been flying out, found an eye, but is kind of getting a little ragged. There is some more wind shear here beginning to impact the system on the left-hand side of your screen, on the western side of the circulation. However, the quicker motion and coming inland earlier should allow Marco to maintain hurricane strength by the time it makes landfall. Nevertheless, you can see obviously impacts here. Western Cuba, remember we thought it would go over the Yucatan? It has shifted much further east than that. Now, the threats of Marco are mostly water. It's mostly water threats. This is the rainfall. This is the forecast through Tuesday, and look at this, 6 to 10 inches, and all of this heavy rain headed to the Gulf Coast. And this does not include what we might be seeing from Laura. We'll talk about Laura in a minute, but that's the rainfall threat. We also have the threat of surge, as I mentioned, those storm surge advisories, which they didn't used to do back in the day, but they started to because of how deadly and destructive surge can be. You can see 3 to 5 feet in Mobile Bay, Lake Borgne, Lake Pontchartrain, 2 to 4 feet, and of course the entire Louisiana coast. Remember, a lot of the Louisiana coast is very moist, very swampy, very marshy, and that's why it's very susceptible to high surges. Of course, 15 years ago, they were devastated with storm surge by a hurricane, which I've been told, by the way, by people not to repeat its name because it gives them PTSD. I've actually heard people say that. Nevertheless, you know what hurricane I'm speaking of. Marco is not going to be anything like that. However, it is still forecast to be a hurricane, and so if you're in Grand Isle, if you're down here in Plaquemines Parish, if you're in the city of New Orleans, you need to be preparing right now your hurricane plans and getting that action in place for Marco's approach. Here's the key message on Marco. Number 1, tropical storm conditions will continue over western Cuba tonight. Heavy rainfall in Quintana Roo in Mexico and the Yucatan and far across western Cuba that could result in flash flooding. Number 2, Marco is expected to approach the central Gulf Coast as a hurricane Monday. Hurricane conditions, threatening storm surge, heavy rain, all possible along the Gulf Coast, and that's why those hurricane and tropical storm watches have been issued. Interest in these areas should follow the advice given by local government officials. And number 3, Laura could bring additional surge rainfall and winds to this same area of the Gulf Coast by the middle of the week, and this could result in a prolonged period of hazardous weather for areas that will be affected by Marco. So areas like this, interest in this area, should monitor the progress of both Marco and Laura during the next couple of days, okay? Now here's Laura as of 5 p.m. It's at 18.0 north, 68.1 west, winds of 50, and it should maintain that the next couple of days until it gets really away from land and can strengthen. It's moving west at 18. It's going to make landfall over the Dominican Republic, move over Haiti, and by this time tomorrow should be somewhere near or over eastern Cuba. And then by Monday night be moving out. And so as we get Marco inland over Louisiana, we're going to probably have a second hurricane take aim and make landfall by Wednesday afternoon. We could have another hurricane landfall very near where Marco is expected to strike. And it could be at least a Category 1, if not stronger. So right now you want to be prepared for something more intense than that. We do have watches and warnings. I should note we have tropical storm warning for Puerto Rico, Vieques, Culebra, the Virgin Islands, the north coast of the Dominican Republic, the eastern side of Cuba, Turks, Caicos Islands, the central Bahamas, the Cuban islands here on the north end, all under tropical storm warnings. And we now have a tropical storm watch in the central Bahamas, including Andros Island and the Florida Keys from Ocean Reef to Key West, including the Dry Tortugas and Florida Bay. Because remember, these tropical storm winds are going to be dancing around Laura as Laura makes her way towards the Gulf of Mexico, and so you could get buffeted by Laura here in the Florida Keys. So you got to watch this very, very carefully, okay? The computer models, again, they are generally taking the system off the coast of Cuba towards the North Gulf Coast. Some keep it a tropical storm, others make it a major hurricane. And right now we just don't know. You can see the European ensembles, they really want to strengthen it here over the central and western Gulf. And the more west it goes, the more concerning, because that would be more time over water, and that would mean a stronger system. Right now we're hoping that doesn't happen, but if it does, we could have an even worse hurricane than Marco. So this is, I told you, this is a busy year. We've already had 2 hurricanes hit America before August, and now we could have 2 more before September. It's unbelievable. Here's the latest key messages on Laura. Number 1, tropical storm conditions across the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico tonight. Then the Dominican, Haiti, Turks, Caicos, Southeast Bahamas, Central and Eastern Cuba, all through tomorrow on Sunday. Heavy rainfall is likely. That could cause mudslides, flash, and urban flooding through Sunday, and widespread river flooding possible in Puerto Rico. Those rivers flood like crazy there. Number 2, tropical storm conditions are possible over the central Bahamas, Andros, and the Keys by Monday. And number 3, most importantly, the details of the long-range track and intensity of Laura are very uncertain because it's going to move over a lot of land. However, Laura is forecast to strengthen over the Gulf and could bring storm surge, rainfall, and wind to portions of the Gulf Coast by the middle of next week, and that could result in a prolonged period of hazardous weather because of those areas being affected by Marco in a couple of days. Interest in this area, as mentioned, should monitor both Laura and Marco. You could see Laura there on the visible right about in here, looking better than it ever has, I gotta say. Its biggest problem is land. But once it gets away from land right now, this wind shear is decreasing. You can see a lot of the greens. This is more favorable. So Laura could have a good environment once it gets over water, and that's why it's such a threat right now. You can see the radar out of San Juan. Definite circulation, a lot of mid-level rotation off to the north. The center down here is still ragged, but this persistent spin is not going away, and all of this heavy rain is headed for the Dominican Republic. So that'll do it this evening for the tropics. I'm Mike Naso. Stay tuned. Subscribe to our YouTube page. We'll have continuous video updates and coverage as we watch our what is expected to be 2 hurricanes impacting the Gulf Coast over the next couple of days. First is going to be Marco making an approach to southeast Louisiana, and then Laura making her approach, blowing through the greater Antilles, and then making towards the Gulf of Mexico. Stay tuned for further coverage.